Okay, downtown, they had two places you could dance. One was called the Opera House, and the other one was called the Colony Club. And those were two places that we were not supposed to go. The Opera House had been a roller skating rink when Mother grew up in Goodland, and they changed it into a dance hall. The Colony Club, I guess that's the nearest you'd call a nightclub, except they never sold any drinks or anything there because, well, I guess probably the reason was that Kansas was dry and you couldn't have any alcohol around it. So it was just more or less a dance place. And they had a bouncer there, and this was before I was in school. So anyhow, there was a fight one night, and a fellow was killed. And the bouncer that did the shooting didn't have to go to jail or prison or anything, but he had to stay in his house all the time. I never did meet him, but years later, two of his sons turned out to be real close friends of Bob and Jean's, and his wife during the war, she worked with my grandmother, and they rolled bandages together. So the rest of the family went ahead and lived like always, and they still put security down there where they danced. But anyway, that was two places that us girls weren't supposed to go. And the Opera House, I don't know what was supposed to be the matter with it. But anyway, we weren't supposed to go up there. Well, one night, Martin and Floyd had came to town, and they stopped to pick up Marguerite, but maybe it was because during the middle of the week or what, I don't know. But anyhow, she wasn't along, so they come and picked me up, and they were supposed to be having a special kind of dance at the Opera House, and Floyd said, well, let's stop and go up in the Opera House and see what's going on up there. So we went up. And there was only just a few couples dancing, and I looked around, and all I could see was just a plain dance floor with a few couples dancing on it. And I don't even remember what kind of music they had. But anyhow, Floyd told Marguerite that we'd stopped and gone up there. And of course, that's the first thing she told when we got home, that I'd been up to the Colony Club. Well, I didn't get in trouble because Floyd was older, and besides that, Dad liked him, and so I never did know what was supposed to be the matter with the Opera House. But anyway, those two places we weren't supposed to go. Marguerite always wanted to go to Winkelman, Nebraska, and as far as I know, she never ever got to. But I went up there quite often because my girlfriend that had transferred from Bird City to Goodland, and we become real lifelong friends. And I'd go and stay all night with her, and then we'd either drive or go up with somebody to Winkelman. And it wasn't any different than any of the rest of them. It was just a place to go and dance. I think the farthest we ever drove was Flagler, Colorado. And that was because we talked Thelma's sister and her husband to take us to a dance that night. And we just started looking at Burlington and started going west till we never did find a dance that night. And I imagine we probably went 100 miles. Made a big circle, and but at that time, why everybody seemed like went to dances, and they were always on a Saturday night, and like I'd said before, they lasted till wee hours of the morning. And once in a while they'd have a sunrise dance. Well, that wasn't much different than just a regular dance, but anyhow, and that was about the end of our dancing thing, except we had school dances, and I don't think they do that anymore, or haven't for quite a while, but we used to have school dances off, and then the proms, of course. Okay. Another way they did these circle dances, the collared yell, men on the north side or women on the south, or one on one side and one on the other. And then when he'd say dance, why, you'd walk to the middle of the dance floor, and whoever you met up with, you danced. Well, there was a little cheating done on that one, because they didn't always pick the partner they were supposed to meet up with. But anyway, Hale was a fun place to go. And then we went to Burlington, and when we went there, we usually went with Thelma's folks, or the folks, and they had two dance halls there. One was the old Armory, and one was the new Armory. Well, the old Armory I liked all right, because it was more like Hale, and people joined in and mixed, and the dances were the same. They had the square dances and the circles and so on. But the new Armory, and it was really a nice building, and a lot newer building. But you kind of had to go with your own crowd there, because most of the congregation were either about the folks' age or several years older than Velma and I were, and you kind of had to have your own crowd, and I just didn't like this. It was a nice floor, but it just wasn't too friendly a place. Goodland had a dance hall on the outside of Goodland, called West Side, and it was just a dance hall. And we kids probably wouldn't have been able to go, except the folks liked to go there. And they did, like the new Armory. They had a full band that they played. And the West Side, it was, again, that they would do all kinds of dances in there. And they had what they called a bullpen on one side of it, and it was a fence on the front and the side, and anybody, and of course it was usually just men and young boys that wanted to come and listen to the music and watch the dancing, but didn't want to dance, so they'd go in there. And most of these places, I think, probably the women got in free, and I don't think the guys ever paid over 25, 50 cents to play. Okay, the house and barn dances kind of quit probably in the late 30s, because I can only remember going to one dance in the house, and one of the parties, outdoor parties, when I was about 14. What was my train of thought? The parties came to an end because most of the boys had either gone to service or gotten married, and that was an older group than than I was with anyway, even though I went to several parties or whenever I wanted to go, Marguerite took me or so on. And then they stopped those, but they did have dances all around, and I think I mentioned Hale to you, and that was kind of one of the favorite spots to go. All there were just dance halls. There was no, up at Hale, they did have a bucket of water, but the bucket of water, why they had a big long-handled cup, and it would be in there. So if you wanted to drink, why you'd dip the cup down in there and rinse it out and take a drink and hang the cup back up. Now this was for that whole crowd of that dance, and but the dances in Hale were usually just maybe 2 guitars, a banjo, and like the sometimes an accordion or maybe a piano. But they had dances that you dance with your partner, just round dances, and they had square dances, several a night, and schottische and a polka and a waltz. Well, I could do the round dance and the square dances. You could lead you to that, and I could waltz with Dad and do the heel and toe polka. But Joanne and Don, they could really polka, and so could their kids. But anyhow, these dances, these round dances, every so often they'd have in the evening they'd have what they called a circle dance, and you'd start out with a partner, and then the caller would either call circle up, ladies on the inside, gents on the out. So you'd walk around like this, and then when he'd see how everybody dance, you danced with the person you were standing next to. Sometimes you were left out and didn't have a partner, but the next time he say circle up, you could get back in if you wanted to. I liked him. Kenny didn't like him very well.
I'll be down to get you in a taxi, honey. You better be ready about 8:30. Now, baby, don't be late. I want to be there when the band starts playing. Remember, when we get there, honey, the 2 steps, I'm going to have 'em all. I'm going to dance off both my shoes when they play the Jelly Roll Blues tomorrow night at the Darktown Strutters Ball.